Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. And here we go. Now, I guess our first show of the second Trump administration. Hooray. Hey, I've officially said hooray. You know, you can't bother me about that. Okay. And lots to round up, of course. Plenty of time to do it, except not really. There's no way to round up all of what happened yesterday, and I think that's by design. That's another flood the zone sort of a day. Let's see. There was the inauguration. It went off more or less as planned. I've seen some bits and pieces of the speech, and it was every bit as, disastrous as you might have thought. I'm sure he thought it was a great triumph, and for all I can tell, most of the newspaper headlines make out like it was a totally normal speech. Except it wasn't. It was a huge departure from, the normal type of speech, usually filled with promise about America, even a departure, I guess, even as compared to the American Carnage speech that he gave in 2017. Pretty dark. And, of course, making a point of insulting people who are sitting right there on the dais, former presidents, etc., going on at length about how terrible everything is. The whole Republican platform, America is a hellhole. But it all changes right now. And then, of course, he took off. Well, then he went on his way to the luncheon. And I guess was it at the luncheon or some sort of, must have been something else. The rally later on. I think they did a rally as well. You know how much he loves rallies. Where Elon Musk, yes, no, gave a Nazi salute twice, I think. But insisted, of course, no, I was just making a gesture meant to show that my heart goes out to the crowd. Like very pointedly, I'm actually flinging my heart at you with great force. American newspapers said, he made some sort of a gesture, and no one knows what it is. But he says he was sending his heart out to everyone in the crowd. Haaretz says he made Nazi salutes. So, you take your advice where you will, I suppose. The oligarchs were present, and as I understand it, seated in the front row, very close up. They were on display. Look at the rich and powerful and famous people who are here in support of me. The cabinet, they stuck behind them. I found that sort of interesting as well. But they're not the cabinet. They weren't the cabinet yet. I guess confirmation hearings or confirmation votes start happening. They probably started happening yesterday with the less controversial nominees. I haven't actually kept up on that. Then I guess, they had their inaugural balls. I paid zero attention to. We were all then distracted by the flurry of executive actions, orders and other things. Mostly garbage, mostly exactly the things he promised he would try and do. As I recall, the pre-inauguration estimate was that they were going to do some 200 executive actions, executive orders of some kind, and I think they got to about 50 yesterday, which is a lot. But, somewhat less than they said. But my thinking on it was, there's probably really no way that they're going to get to the number that they want, because Trump takes an awful long time to sign these things. It's not that he doesn't chisel his name in stone or anything. And his signature is just scribble, and I'm sure he can do it faster, but he likes to linger over it. He made a show of signing some of them. And I think I didn't pay too much close attention to, but I definitely did see some video of him, doing the Oval Office signing thing and, then holding it up and showing the cameras. Although I did notice this, considerably less flash bulbs or whatever they use these days, flashes going off when he would hold up an executive order for everybody to take pictures of. I don't know whether people were snapping digital pictures and they didn't require the flash, or I think they do. I mean, professional photographers. Anyway, it didn't really look like it used to, where he'd hold something up and there'd be pew, 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 and all the clicks and whirs and everything. But none of that. I don't know. At least not on the one I saw. Maybe the one I saw was the 15th one that day. But as you know, he takes his time signing it. He talks about it. He, says, this is an executive order that will be taken more seriously than any executive order ever in the history of our country. So great, et cetera, and brags on what's in them. So he takes a minute or two at best to go through one of these things and sign it and then move on to the next one. There's a little chatter. What's this one here that you're giving me? So it's not a fast process. So, like 200 of them to actually literally do the 200. Giving, let's say, generously 2 minutes for each one, 400 minutes. What is that? Divided by 60 is 6 2/3 hours of just signing. And like his biggest party day of his life, he's not going to sit there for 6 hours and sign 200 executive orders. So I just didn't think that was going to happen. Second of all, I do think that there are a bunch of them that he wanted to have on the record, whatever that may mean, for day one. And there were some very big, big name ones, things that he's been promising for a long time. On day one, I'm going to this, that, and the other thing. So I think he had to follow through on the January 6th pardons one. So it was a big day for pardons. I don't think we've ever seen quite so many pardons on January 20th. Usually there's a couple of last minute ones. And there were some really, really last minute ones from the Biden administration. As we know, there were some pardons for people who worked on January 6th stuff, Anthony Fauci, people who didn't do anything. Plus, as it turns out, much of Biden's immediate family, which I don't know how much interest there's going to be in it, but Republicans, I'm sure, are telling anyone who'll listen. And by this, I mean, I guess, One American News Network and what are the other ones? I can't even remember the names of the stupid channels that they've got. And surely Fox has at least tried to air this thing. But, what did they pardon? What did he pardon members of his family for? What have they done? What are they covering up? But there was so much other news and so many other pardons happening. And also everybody had heard plenty about the fact that Biden was going to have to do these preemptive pardons for people who were going to have charges drummed up against them for political reasons. It didn't seem to be of much interest outside in the mainstream news. There just wasn't that much discussion of it. But then the big one that I guess everybody's been waiting for since forever, and I don't know, have I got the name pronounced correct? Is it Leonard Peltier? Is it pronounced French, sort of? The American Indian movement activist who's been in prison since forever for his role in, depending on who you ask, I guess, he's been imprisoned for the shooting of FBI agents during a standoff of some kind. I actually am not that familiar with the history, other than that it has been his release has been something that activists have been pushing for since, I don't know, probably all 50 years, but it's certainly been in my consciousness, political consciousness, for, I guess, Democratic presidents. Certainly they ask Republican presidents too, but they're pretty sure what the answer is going to be. But Democratic presidents since Clinton that I'm aware of, maybe I'm sure asked. I don't know, was it too soon to ask Jimmy Carter for that? Maybe. But at any rate, it's just been on the agenda since forever. And several Democratic presidents have come and gone and disappointed activists by refusing to use their clemency or pardon powers even at the last minute of their administration. Biden did it. And that's nice. And it took a very long time to do. I have no criticism for him about that. As soon as I saw the news, my reaction was, I think that's good, but I don't know if that's going to be good enough for people. I'm just sort of bracing myself for a couple of tweets, and it really was just a couple of tweets of people saying, well, about time, or Democrats have been so weak for decades, and they didn't, but they did just do it. Thanks for nothing, he's 80 years old. Well, how about, and they didn't even pardon him, they commuted his sentence, he has to serve his sentence in home confinement. It's pretty good. Like I said, Clinton wouldn't do it. Obama wouldn't do it. Yeah, okay. So it seems to me like this is pretty good. Okay, let's see. And Scott has just sent me thank you for doing the production work behind the scenes and sending me the Leonard Peltier news here. Thank you, Scott. I'm not that angry about it, actually. But this is, it's in a Substack. So hold on a minute. Let me give a salute. And Leonard Peltier is finally free-ish. He got a really last minute clemency from Joe Biden. Robin Panaccia is our Substack author here. And I don't know. I don't think I've ever been here before, but a Wonkette writer, is that right? Or are you just linking to a Wonkette story about it here? I've pressed a button and I don't know what's happening anymore. So what do we got? I'll back up. Thanks a lot, Scott. He sent me one that's like full of, I'm going to have to, bleep my way through this. Was I'm sorry. The second one is holy. Okay, you get the idea? All right, very excited. In the absolute last minutes of his presidency, Joe Biden did something many of us have been begging him to do for 4 years. Something we begged Obama to do. Something we begged Bill Clinton to do. See? I told you. He granted clemency to political prisoner Leonard Peltier, an indigenous activist. That's the terminology they're using here. I'll go with that. Who has been imprisoned for 50 years for a crime he almost definitely did not commit. That's the issue, really. And there is no evidence, and for which there is definitely no evidence to prove he committed it. Evidence sometimes doesn't prove anything. It tends to prove. It helps. But okay, well, never mind. We don't need that lecture now. It's not great. It's not perfect. It should have been a pardon, and it's not. He should be fully freed, and he's being moved to home confinement, but at least he gets to be home with his family. So that's pretty good. Peltier, a leader in the American Indian Movement, AIM, that just a few years prior had led the occupation of Wounded Knee, South Dakota for 71 days, demanding a renegotiation of contracts with the U.S. government. And, of course, interestingly now, if you occupy a federal facility for days and days on end in an armed standoff with federal authorities, you are a militia guy and an American hero. And maybe you want to storm a Capitol or something. These days, when the American right is doing it, I guess it's A-OK. 50 years in prison if you are not in their club. Anyway, convicted of killing 2 FBI agents in 1975 during a shootout that involved some 40 people. FBI agents, or the said FBI agents, were there to arrest a man named Jimmy Eagle, who they had reason to believe had, as it says here, stolen some cowboy boots. So maybe they overreacted. The only evidence against Peltier was that 1, he was physically there. 2, a ballistics expert said the bullets could have come from his gun. That's never really very good. 3, a mentally challenged young woman named Myrtle Poorbear signed affidavits saying she was Peltier's girlfriend at the time and personally saw him shoot the agents in the head. Well, that's not great testimony to have against you, certainly. And not even that, really. Ballistics experts, the ballistic expert originally concluded using an especially accurate test that the bullets could not have come from Peltier's gun, though of course the defense was not told this, but then he was ordered to perform a less accurate test that determined that they could have, possibly, if you squint. Poorbear would later recant, saying that she'd been pressured by law enforcement to make that claim. So you get the idea here. All right. So, I mean, That's your basic background on it, in case you didn't know. Although I would venture to say that the vast majority of you had more than a passing familiarity with the case, and I should have spent some time yesterday catching up on it. But I was also I was looking at some of the other executive orders that Donald Trump issued. I thought it was of some interest. Of course, the January 6th pardons. And Trump took care to point out that people were getting full pardons even for violent participation in January 6th. And I guess some of the offenders who were imprisoned for the longest, those who had been convicted on the seditious conspiracy charges, were having their sentences commuted and would therefore presumably be released from prison But I guess pending further investigation, which they're just probably not going to do, they were withholding at the moment a full pardon for them, I guess to see whether there's anything that could be considered too embarrassing even for a Trump administration. I don't know. And so we're talking there about Proud Boys leaders and Oath Keeper leaders and the like. Now, what's not clear from all of this is whether anybody who has, other crimes on the books besides January 6th, but who, in addition to the many other crimes, were arrested and incarcerated for January 6th crimes, are going to have those crimes wiped out too. I mean, one hallmark of work like this, if you can call it that, from the Trump administration is it tends to get things very jumbled and wrong, and sometimes maybe you might think intentionally unclear, so that they're broader or they're able to be interpreted as much broader than they actually, that most people thought they intended. For instance, we told the story the other day of the January 6th defendant, what's his name, Edward Kelly, is that right? I think I have it in our archives. I'll have to go back and take a look in our pocket archives, who was convicted for January 6th related activity. He was there and apparently was, we remember him, the fourth one to breach the Capitol. And then it was found out during his trial that he was captured on video. There were indications that he was armed, had a handgun in his waistband when he broke into the Capitol. So, belying the whole, they were unarmed or they were peaceful protesters or tourists, depending on who you ask. But that he was, I guess, released pending trial, and that during his pre-trial release, he apparently got together with his friends to plot to murder the FBI agents who were investigating his case, and now faces trial for both of those things. And I think he's been convicted on the January 6th thing, but now faces trial on the murder plot to kill the FBI agents. Just an interesting parallel to the guy we were just talking about, Leonard Peltier, who was released from prison for allegedly murdering FBI agents. I mean, those FBI agents are actually killed, and I guess no FBI agents were killed in Kelly's case, but the plot to plan their deaths, I mean, you should be taking that stuff seriously. If it's going to be a problem for you to see criminals plotting the violent death of FBI agents, you might decide to take it more seriously. So it's not clear whether Edward Kelly, for instance, got pardoned for either or both of those crimes. No one knows at this point, because I don't think I haven't seen the list of people who are actually considered now to be pardoned be circulated yet. And that's because there's like 1,500 of them, and it's a mess, and the Trump administration may not even know if they have a complete list. So they're just throwing that out there. Everybody's pardoned, and nobody's sure what they're pardoned for and what they're not pardoned for, right? If you did, if you got sentenced to a year in prison and you've done your time and then you got out and you were picked up on meth charges, it's not entirely clear, I don't think, from the language of the pardon that was issued whether or not you should expect to be let out of prison for your meth charges at this point. And they don't care. So, this is one of those things. By the way, another thing that I picked up on in the news yesterday related to this one, and then we'll start talking about the technical difficulties with most of these executive orders. There was this that I picked up. At least, a lot of this stuff might have newspaper outlet coverage by now. But what I picked up before giving up and going to sleep at last yesterday was a lot of blue sky activity about much of it from reporters discovering things as this went on. First one here is Nick Martin, who says in his profile here, I run The Informant, a publication covering hate and extremism in the U.S. That's got to be a tough job. Very busy anyway. So he points out that I guess somewhat, I was reminded of this from Edward Kelly, who arrested for January 6th activity, let out pre-trial, and goes out and starts committing more crimes. This is the story of Jake Chansley, which is the real name of the QAnon shaman guy with the face paint and the makeshift, the spear / flagpole and the big Water Buffalo Lodge headdress. Remember this guy? The one who was arrested and then wanted to have organic food in prison and everything. It was really something. Well, anyway, he has this to say because he found a way to get back in the news. He's listed here as Jake Chansley, the Arizona actor. I didn't realize that he was an actor, and he was just acting at the time. He who became one of the most recognized J6 figures, the QAnon shaman, said tonight in a post on Twitter that he received a pardon from Trump. No one would have received anything yet, of course, but you know how the way this works for people. I heard, there's probably a couple of people getting themselves in trouble, fighting guards trying to walk out of prison right now, saying, I heard I got one. Anyway, he says he's got a pardon from Trump, and he added, and I guess got to get my sound effects ready again. He says, in all caps on Twitter, which, how does he even have Twitter in prison? Now I am going to buy some mother, although it says mother, mother effing guns. 3 exclamation points. So there you go. Terrific. And I guess with a full pardon, he would be able to do that. As people who are convicted felons in most states would have trouble buying those guns, but now no trouble. So yay, that's terrific. And that was the whole point, I think, for the Trump administration, flaunting it and giving them full pardons so that they could go out and get guns, though quite honestly, they probably already had guns. But there you go. Just, more recidivists, and, it just makes it all the worse to find out that now they'll also have some pardons. And, people rightly now fear that even if they never outright do it, you're going to have people wandering the streets under the impression that Trump knows my name and he's going to take care of me. And if I beat up some local people I disagree with politically or whatever else, I'll say I was doing it for Trump and Trump will pardon me. But I do remind these people, and it would be a good idea to remind them, he did let you languish. I mean, January 6th was before the end of his term. He had 2 weeks to issue the same blanket pardon it took him 4 years to get around to issuing for you. And I know he was out of power and he couldn't do it for 4 years, but he absolutely could have done it on the way out the door. And it's worth reminding everybody that he didn't help you, and he didn't take the opportunity to keep you out of prison and prevent you from having to bankrupt yourself in your defense or ruin your life or spend 2 years in prison or whatever it is, because he was afraid or something, or couldn't be bothered, one or the other. I'm afraid I'll get in trouble, or people will be angry at me, or I won't be reelected again later, or who cares? I want to play golf. Whatever it is, he left you there, but now he's your big hero. Well, if you're in prison and then you get out, I guess you'll probably be pretty happy about it. Anyway, so it was like I said, a big flood of terrible executive actions. And if you want, you can go to the White House website and read through them. Many journalists and analysts are already combing through them for you. Some of them are extraordinarily stupid. Some of them are just vindictive and mean. Some of them are not even, I don't even understand where they come from. Like why they're just anti-Biden, rescinding a Biden executive order that had the practical effect of lowering prescription drug prices for seniors on Medicare. Why would you rescind that? It's not doing anybody, it's not even anti-MAGA to lower prescription drug prices, but apparently it is anti-Biden and that makes them happy. And so, I don't know, I guess none of this stuff I don't think will change life in America today, right now. And so I think that's what people will be looking at, and they won't bother them so much because they'll think life is going on as normal. But I guess pretty soon with prescription drug prices, I guess you don't have to wait too long to see. I imagine the pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies are going to jump right on that and be like, no, money is available to us now. We can pry it out of people's hands. Start now. And they probably knew it was coming and are ready to implement it now. Meanwhile, as I was saying, a lot of these things are garbage, not just subject matter garbage, but executional garbage. And that not to be confused with the executive order that directed the DOJ to pursue everybody's execution. Anybody who could possibly be on death row in the United States should be put back on there. I don't think he can rescind the commutations, or at least so far has not claimed the power to rescind Biden commutations. But there's an executive order in here saying something about find more ways to execute more people, basically. But a lot of these are just sort of aspirational things. We'll get to some of the errors of them after the fact, and then just generally what it means to be back on the Trump and paperwork watch. But yeah, a lot of sloppy stuff, including one of the things that he, of course, made a big deal of at the very end of the campaign, and which you should be bothering every Republican about, that you have any access to. What happened to the price of eggs? Price of eggs is still the same this morning. Nothing's changed. And it's only 89 days to Easter, by the way, when everybody's going to want, extra eggs, and they're still going to be through the roof. He might try to take some executive action to lower their prices, but it doesn't appear that he has any ideas. The executive order that he did issue on this is, I order other people, that is to say my cabinet, I order people in the federal government to go find ways to get prices down. And then what? Report them to me and then I'll do them? I don't know. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Networks Radio. So let's go and continue on with discussions of the pardons. By the way, Darwin, I think, has it right in commenting on the Edward Kelly case. I can see them making a case that his subsequent plot to kill the FBI agents is sort of the fruit of that tree. As they say in the phrase, like the fruit of the poisonous tree. When they're talking about convicting people on improperly admitted evidence or improperly seized evidence, and saying, well, you wouldn't have the conviction but for the fruit of the poisoned tree. You wouldn't have had him plotting to kill FBI agents if you hadn't, sicked the deep state plotters on him to arrest him for just expressing himself as guaranteed by his rights in the Constitution. They'll certainly make that claim if they intend to pardon him from this second crime. And it's just not clear whether they do or not intend to do that. And that's the overall big problem with these executive orders. You might have thought that they had prepared these things. I mean, it's not that they didn't prepare these things ahead of time. I mean, I guarantee you that they didn't do this work yesterday. But the thing is that they didn't do this work ever. They did prepare them ahead of time, but they did their usual garbage half-assed job, and maybe even half of an ass, about quarter-ass job, I would say. And right, we'll comb through them. There's just so many things happening here, but I think that's largely right, and it's meant to create confusion. But it is a good question, and it's something that ought to be asked in press gaggles today. Ask of every all the Republicans will say, they'll deny everything, right? If you try to ask Republican senators about it, they'll say, I didn't see the executive order, or I didn't see the tweet. I don't know anything about it. Did he do pardons? Oh, I didn't know anything. No one told me. I don't know. Or at best, I have no comment on them. The presidential pardon power is absolute, and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, that's not what we're asking you. What do you think about it? Well, I don't think. So, there's that. But anyway, they should certainly be asking the president and anyone who will be too ashamed not to answer. Did you pardon Edward Kelly, who on release pre-trial from his January 6th case started plotting to kill FBI agents who were, just having their day in court, just like everybody else. He doesn't care about the fairness of it, but we'll see. I'd be curious to see what kind of response he gets. And if by any chance his brain blew up, great. Okay. I'll take that. All right, let's see. Many other things to get to. Oh, look, one of the things that's still on my screen here from Blue Sky, one of the other ironies of the inauguration ceremony. I noticed, I saw a clip where I guess in the processional prior to the ceremonies, I guess bringing people in, or maybe everybody was in their seat already, but the musical performance, which is usually a part of an inauguration. It's usually, U.S. Marine Corps band that was there, and it looked like a Navy chorus singing. I just note for the record, I don't know whether this is really the case. I haven't tracked this, but they did sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic, which I don't recall whether that's I don't know for sure whether that's been used in inaugurations in the recent past. My recollection is that it's, while it's a part of the American songbook, the American Patriotic Songbook, and will sometimes be performed at musical recitals, where the main purpose is the music. It's not very often these days used in public ceremony this way, I don't think. My recollection is that the last time I recall it being used and being remarked upon was it was used in the immediate post 9/11 memorial service at the National Cathedral, like in September 2001, days after the attack. And I remember the commentators pointing out that this is very poignant. The use of the battle hymn is meaningful here. Of course, then we were in a 20-year war immediately after, so that's and another war that started 2 years after, and they insisted had something to do with this one, and really didn't. But you know what we're talking about. But the point was, the Battle Hymn of the Republic was sort of so heavy with meaning that people just tended not to use it in these situations. And to do it at an inauguration seems weird, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've done it in inaugurations in the past and it's been benign because nobody thought that the president being inaugurated was looking for an opportunity to start a war anytime soon, the same way they do with this one. Anyway, and then, of course, he went on to make his speech saying, we're going to take back the Panama Canal, etc., so already threatening war. But I thought that was kind of interesting. But it was extraordinarily insulting, I thought, that this was happening, of course, inside the Capitol and in the rotunda, and there having it indoors, gave it some additional meaning. This was going to be done outdoors anyway, but to gather people in the rotunda, where the last time there were so many MAGA Trump supporters gathered like that on the inside in the rotunda, they were there under the Confederate battle flag. January 6th. All this is happening. The Battle Hymn of the Republic. They're singing right where the MAGA QAnon lunatics were rampaging, smearing feces on the wall and carrying Confederate flags. Battle Hymn of the Republic. Well, you know, that's embarrassing and upsetting all by itself. And as many commentators were pointing out with all of these pardons, right, this is going to not only, it's going to have this really horrible effect of encouraging people to, behave differently. There's no punishment for violence on behalf of Trump and the Trump campaign and Trump administration, so I'm going to do some more. Hopefully, though, it also prompts a different reaction from everybody else. Battle Hymn of the Republic, Confederate flags. Well, it's a long time ago, but the guys who used to sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic knew what to do with their insurrectionists right away. Now, some of them made it, and some of them survived and got pardons and were able to participate in civic life. But, most of them were shot when you found them. And then after the war, too. And they hanged plenty of them, and they shot plenty of them on the battlefield. And I guess it's entirely possible that, on the one hand, Trump's pardons prompts a different response among Trump supporters and a different feeling about their willingness to go forward with violence in the future. But it also might prompt a different response if there's ever another election and then and a Democrat wins and there's another insurrection and we happen to survive that one. That might prompt some different response with respect to what you do with your insurrectionists after that one is tamped down. As I have frequently pointed out, Nicolae Ceausescu did not come back to make Romania great again. He just didn't. Was it a good idea at the time? Was it moral? I don't know, but he never came back. Anyway, so back to the various other pardons and executive actions that he took. It was an interesting day and an interesting collection of stuff. And I was sort of reminding everybody, once again, Trump and paperwork. All of these things are definitely frightening. You should absolutely take them seriously in the sense that he definitely wants to do these things. There's no doubt about that. I don't think it's that Trump doesn't have the guts to carry these actions out if he can, but I remind people he very frequently overreaches or drafts these things incorrectly and it doesn't work, or the title of the thing says that he's going to do XYZ, but the body of it doesn't say that, or worse. I will remind you, and I mean, by worse, I mean maybe better, I don't know, depending on how things work out, but I remind you that this is a process that we typically don't verify in this country because we have very little reason to believe that there's any serious departure between what's claimed and what's being attempted and all the component parts of it. If a president of the United States says he's issuing an executive order and seen signing an executive order, and then that executive order's text is published on the White House website, people begin executing that order because there's little reason to believe that the order as published on the website is not valid or is in fact a thing that's been signed by the president. And this president gives us reason to question that. If only because this wouldn't be, for instance, the first time that he's shown up at a public function and claimed that there was paperwork that did XYZ, but it turns out that all the paperwork was just stacks of blank paper in manila folders. Or that he had a healthcare plan and it was published in this bound volume and the bound volume was full of blank pages. This is something that he does with some frequency. And, if that doesn't bother you enough, I guess you might say, I will point out that he's forged things as important and as ridiculous to even consider forging as electoral college vote certificates. And I mean, I guess after that, there's just nothing that's off limits. So, a real lazy ass garbage administration could absolutely, one, just fill binders full of blank paper or full of, the lorem ipsum fake text and mock it up to look like an executive order so that he has a bunch of things to sign. And I mean, I would imagine you wouldn't then flash them at the cameras because people can take pictures that they can then, enlarge and say, hey, this doesn't say anything, or it doesn't say what they say it means. But I wouldn't put it past them. And of course, you didn't see him sign those things. You should be examining every single portion of this. If you're going to fight, I know there's splashy fights and glamorous fights to have, but if you're going to fight, you can fight on the little things too. Things that we assume are true, but they just might not be. Did the president sign this order? I don't know. I saw him sign some papers. Maybe. But did the president put his hand on this one? I mean, 50 is, I guess, about the most I could imagine him taking care of in a single day like this one, a full day of other activities scheduled. I know he just doesn't have the patience to sit there at the desk and sign papers like this. So one, I would question whether every one of those signatures on every one of those purported orders is valid and was affixed with his hand. I don't know how much that matters to the courts. Like if they were to say we put a stamp on them or we use the auto pen, these courts, I don't know. They might just say, well, the intention is enough. He ordered that be done. That's it. It doesn't matter that he actually moved the pen with the ink. But, in the past they have said, yes, it does. It does matter. But they might now decide, no, it doesn't. We changed our minds about that. But did he sign them? Did they say what they purported to say? Yes, the text, you didn't see the text on the page that he signed. Sure, it's purportedly been published on a website, but you and I and everyone listening and everyone not listening, you all know that, you can put whatever you want on the website. Is it the case that because it's on the White House website, that was the text on the parchment that he signed? Usually, yes. This guy, no, maybe not so much. I don't know. Maybe it's even just mild stuff. Like I'm sure other presidents have signed things and they're like, oh no, there's a typo in the page that he signed, but we'll publish it this way. And can they get away with it? Sometimes yes, I'm sure. Sometimes no, depending on what the error is. But right, did he sign them? Was this on the page? Did they just make it up afterwards? I could absolutely see these guys saying, I don't know, we're not finished with all these things, but just we're finished with these 10. So let's sign these 10 and then just print another 5 copies of each of these 10 and have them sign things. This is the pile you don't want him to show to the cameras. This is the pile he can show to the cameras. And we're still working on the text. And then when we get it right, we'll just put on the website that this is what he signed. And no one knows whether we're right or wrong about that. And anybody who says, well, what if, anyone who says what I'm saying, they say, that guy's a crazy conspiracy theorist. I know, but he forged electoral college votes. And he's done the blank paper thing more than once. So, I'm just saying double check. Well, anyway, while I was saying that and people were saying, how dare, there were a few people wanted to push back. He's promised these things. These are from Project 2025. I know they are. And so they probably had these things ready to go at the first minute. They had these things ahead of time for years and they just published them. Actually, that doesn't actually, for one thing, prove anything about the point of their not doing the work correctly. I mean, the fact that they had years to do it, well, could they still screw it up? You bet. Absolutely, 100%. And 2, I don't think they actually used that time. But it's not like the fact that they're published on the website, there's not like a clerk sitting there transcribing them as they come off of the desk. The fact that they're typed up and ready to go ahead of time in a normal administration, okay, I understand why they do that. And in this administration, I understand why they would do that too. But it's like if I say I think he signed a piece of lorem ipsum paper and said on the website that it was for instance, an executive order restoring names that honor American greatness. This is, I guess, the renaming for Confederate generals of American Army bases, right? I can put that title on there, but did you guys finish the language for it? Yes, no, I don't know. The fact that they had 4 years to do it doesn't really tell me that they did do it or that they did do it correctly. And because it's on the website, that doesn't mean that some official person who totally has no reason to lie for whatever reason sat there and said, I'll verify it. Give me what he just signed and I'll type it verbatim into the website. That's not the process, right? Those things were prepared ahead of time. Yes, that doesn't mean that's what made it to the desk and got signed. It just doesn't. It should. It seems dumb not to. But they seem very dumb anyway. So, you shouldn't lose track of that. Anyway, you get the idea. Well, as we were reading through these things, it became obvious that there were some problems. And people are yelling at me and saying, how can you possibly say that? And I'm saying, again, it's not that he doesn't want to do these things. It's just that he might have fumbled the ball a couple of times. Found some interesting stuff out there, people discussing things on Blue Sky. For instance, for one thing, the order to reduce prices. This is titled Delivering Emergency Price Relief for American Families and Defeating the Cost of Living Crisis. Well, it's not a lengthy thing, but Catherine Rampell, taking a look at this for Washington Post, notes and does a little screen grab here that the executive order to reduce prices basically comes down to this. I hereby order, this is Trump, I hereby order the heads of all executive departments and agencies to deliver emergency price relief. That's what he says, and there's more to it. But how do I bring down prices? I hereby order you to someone else to lower prices. I hereby order all the heads of executive departments and agencies to deliver emergency price relief consistent with applicable law. This is not, of course, his voice, but, someone else wrote it for, but this is now his proclamation. Consistent with applicable law, which may mean there's nothing I can do. To the American people and increase the prosperity of the American worker. This shall include pursuing appropriate actions to lower the cost of housing and expand housing supply, eliminate unnecessary administrative expenses and rent-seeking practices. Oh no, I seek rent. That increase healthcare costs. Eliminate counterproductive requirements that raise the costs of home appliances. It goes on at some length, but when you examine a thing, it is I order you to find a way to do this. They had 4 years. They got a project 2025. They got nothing. And at least it's a purport to be honoring appropriate and applicable law, but at the same time, basically, people who said there's no way for you to just order prices to be lower. Well, he'll ignore the law. He'll just go around it and he'll just order it to happen, and people will have to sue. And yeah, he might do that, but he didn't. I order other people to do it, and you have to, pay attention to and obey all the laws, which sounds to me like nope. That's not happening. But there's more. Let's see. I'll open a couple of these things. It's difficult to know because they're all parked in Pocket as Blue Sky posts. I'm not sure which one we're picking up on. All right, let's see. Oh, here's another one that maybe we should wait for this one and discuss this one after the break because we're coming up on the top of the hour here. But let's see. I got to open up all these things and see which one is which. so that I know. All right, let's see. Oh, there's that one. There's a whole lot. I'm just browsing here, but this isn't the one I had in mind. I know this is taking quite a while. And I would read them out to you, but I feel like then I want to go down that lane and read it and discuss it. All right, here's one. Mark Joseph Stern, whose name we call all the time on the program, pointing out lots of reporting suggested that this time around, this is right to the point, Trump and his lawyers would avoid the sloppy legal work that plagued his first administration, so they'd fare better in the courts. You know, there was a long list of losses in the federal courts that we kept track of back in the Twitter days, you know, with, I don't know, had a weird hashtag that I was using for it, but like, you know, Trump gets things done, you know, he knows how to get stuff done, and he would just order things and then they would be defeated in court, and everybody sort of took notice of that. MAGA people didn't care, but we did. And it was good to see the courts defeating these things. So you would think, you know, lots of people pushing back on my thoughts of, you know, they might have screwed these things up again. No, they were prepared. And that's what people were reporting, that they were probably going to be prepared. But that's not what Mark says here. He says, I see no evidence of that in this round of executive orders. This is poor, slipshod work. And this is interesting, obviously assisted by AI. Oh, my God. Of course they would do something like this, right? Why work on anything? Typos and formatting errors get repeated across several executive orders, revealing extensive use of copy and paste. The rhetoric sounds like a ChatGPT imitation of the Fifth Circuit's laziest rulings, and the legal arguments are frequently fringe in the extreme in a way that will likely piss off Chief Justice Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett as well. Maybe the Trump administration's legal output will improve when Pam Bondi is confirmed as Attorney General, and then she can staff the DOJ with at least marginally competent MAGA lawyers. But the early signs here are not encouraging. Remember that Chief Justice Roberts repeatedly disqualified Trump policies based on bad lawyering. And then pointing out, I guess I'm going to have to spell this out for those inclined to misread what I've written here. Obviously, it's a good thing if awful policies are blocked due to bad lawyering. My use of the phrase not encouraging was sarcastic. You know, I guess people did not get that right away. But yeah, like, wow, AI to write these things. And of course, they would skimp on the actual work, the actual lawyering and academic work and all this because they don't care. They hate paperwork, they hate procedure, they hate anything complicated, and they hate people who don't hate it. People who actually would do the work correctly, they don't want anything to do with. So, you know, I mean, that's worth noting. And of course, as people were pushing back on, well, no, they probably got it right this time, there's really nothing probable about that at all. At all. It was interesting. Own all the things, or which PWN, Pwn all the things on Blue Sky, made it their business to comb through all of the first day official proclamations and executive orders and I guess comment on it along the way, or at least give you some indication of what they are supposed to mean if you find the title somehow to be impenetrable. But most of them, were fairly clear in what they wanted done. They just were poorly done, and you should be aware of that. And everybody, now needs to comb through these things and make sure that the things are real and binding. But yeah, as Allison F., everybody's favorite friend from online, saying is, it didn't even occur to me that they'd use ChatGPT for this type of thing, but of course they would, right? No work. Don't do any work. Now, some of it is, I guess you could think, you could backfill that as strategy. Oh, they love chaos, and this is the way they create chaos. They purposefully did it. And, in some cases, you might even believe that. Like, they know that There are still too many judges out there that take things seriously to let us get away with this, but we need to please the MAGA crowd, so we make the first day declaration. We promise it. We go out and we do a whole thing and we print it up on parchment and everything, but we know it's garbage, and we actually went out of our way to make sure it stayed garbage so that federal judges would save us from ourselves, and then we can say, oh, it's not my fault, it's these activist judges. There's probably some of that going on there too. When they talk it through and they actually have people in the room discussing how to do these things and people say, this isn't going to work, you can say, well, we'll do our best to make it work. But if we can't make it work, then don't worry about it. We still get a benefit out of it anyhow. So, like I said, most of them are garbage, and it's not that you shouldn't worry about them. It's that you should comb over everything carefully, and you should basically be saying everything is purported. This order purports to do these things, but we don't know whether it will be effective. And this purported order purports to do these things. I don't even know if this is a real order. I don't even know if there was a real parchment signed. I don't even know if all 50 of these got real Trump signatures on them. We don't know. And I also don't put it past him, like I said, to just put his signature or show him signing some things and then saying, when we get the language right, we'll publish it to the website as though that was what was on the paper. And no one will be any of the wiser. And you won't be unless you take a look and make them do these things. And, that will mean if there was any fair chance of getting a real response out of the courts all the way up, top to bottom, basically you should be able to argue the guy's just not trustworthy, and he uses blank paper all the time, and he forges things. And I'm sorry, it's going to be a big pain in the ass, but if you want to have executive orders be effective and mean something to the extent that the text you've actually provided us, it does mean anything or is even enforceable, then yeah, you're going to have to show Donald Trump on television signing the thing, and he's going to have to hold it up, and we're going to have to say, hold that thing still as we take a high resolution photo of it. I want to make sure that the text you're signing here, I'll verify that you put your hand to it, but I got to see that it matches the text that you publish. And I'm sorry, we're just going to have to do it that way. And the same goes for all bills that get signed and all communications to the Congress as well, except the Congress now is on his side. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. So, by the way, also executive orders out there renaming other things, doing the dumb stuff that I don't know whether he did any research on it or whether he just made it up. Post-campaign, I think it was from his post-campaign, that we're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico, right? So now we're supposed to call it the Gulf of America. And I think in his speech, he said, and this is something I think he's threatened before, we're going to rename Denali. We're going to make it Mount McKinley again, which apparently up in Alaska nobody ever really used. Anyway, but then the excuse was President McKinley made us very rich, very wealthy, and something, Panama Canal, Anyway, he went on. So, by the way, I just checked pre-show on Google Maps. I typed in Gulf of America, and one, they're still calling it the Gulf of Mexico on Google Maps, and two, Gulf of America is a thing. And so, I don't know. Let's see. What did they show me for Gulf of America? There's a couple of businesses using that name, and I wondered whether they were going to take me to, are there still Gulf gas stations? I don't even know. I haven't seen one of those in a while. But it's in use by businesses all over the place. Let's see. First of all, down along the Gulf, there's Gulf of America Outfitters, fishing boat, essentially. They'll take you out on fishing charters. So I don't know what kind of, I don't think it creates any copyright problems, but anyway, Gulf of America or Gulf America Wire Rope Incorporated in Broussard, Louisiana. Also comes up on the map is, what's this one? Let's see. Gulf America wire rope in another location. So they're big in wire and rope down there in Louisiana. And then up north, Gulf of America. What is that even? It's like a photo site. What is this supposed to be? Tourist attraction. Is it? I don't know what they're talking about here, but let's see. 1849 C Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. Maybe that's somebody's idea of a joke, but I want to take a look at, like, what would that even be on the Google Maps here. All right, so that's just behind Constitution Hall. What's this building? The American Red Cross headquarters, I guess. Maybe somebody thought that was funny and just relabeled it somehow. So anyway, the point is, search Gulf of America. Google Maps doesn't know what you're talking about. Search for Mount McKinley. It will bring you to Denali, but it points out the name of this place is Denali, at least for now. And I sent that out via Blue Sky, and I did see somebody say, oh, well, Ron DeSantis is on board with this thing because I saw that a friend of mine sent me a weather alert that apparently made mention of the Gulf and went out of their way to say that this was a storm developing over the Gulf of America or whatever, and just got a big eye roll there. People will be able to piece it together. I don't think it poses any danger to anybody. The storm is coming from the Gulf of America, and most people will say either I heard about that, okay, I can react properly, or they will say the Gulf of what? Or I don't know. I only know one Gulf, and if I got this weather alert, it's probably the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, yeah, right. I heard something about them calling it the Gulf of... Oh, okay, well, anyway. So there you go. What other things are happening in America? Well, I'll tell you. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the other things I put aside about these ridiculous orders. And I'm going to have to open up all these things again and see which one is which. But, all right. Oh, yes, right. So one was Pwn All the Things. We already got that one. And then I think this one was the Mark Joseph Stern one. And then, yes, there was this from Daniel Chomsky pointing out something that happened yesterday during the show was the publication of the Washington Post's story. This is very interesting. So Dean Baker circulating this point, and I guess Daniel Chomsky commenting on it further. So Dean Baker got this article which illustrated with a photo of is this the Trumps in this photo? It's cutting off their heads, which is a terrific idea, by the way. Trump promotes memecoin. You remember all that. Raising ethics issues as value soars. And I have an update for you on the valuation of that. But the Washington Post, Dean says, gets Trump's crypto story exactly wrong. It doesn't raise ethical questions. It answers them. There are zero ethics in a Trump administration. All his policies are for sale. It's a good point. And Daniel Chomsky just adding on top of it, the Washington Post can't tell whether there's a problem turning the entire government into an instrument to enrich exactly one person. It could be more than one person, but that's not really the point. But that I thought was a good observation. There's going to be a lot of this. Whether it's intentional or not, I guess you could debate. I don't have any great interest in debating it, but that the Washington Post and other papers are soft peddling everything is troublesome and is not going to get us out of this situation anytime sooner. But yeah, launching a meme coin doesn't raise ethical questions. It answers them. Hello, this is the answer. There aren't going to be any ethical standards. What's the question? Should this be happening? No. Well, if it raises the question, and also it's very easy to answer them, why not just get right to the answer of these questions? I think that's a good point. All right. There's further information out there, and I think maybe this might be the one we need now. Okay. But somebody also circulated, and I'm searching for it, an update on the valuation of the meme coin thing. That we went with it yesterday. Other people reporting, oh my gosh, this thing that Trump has launched here has netted him $50 billion in a day over the weekend. Well, there's an argument to be made that that's not the case, and it sounds rather authoritative. Let's take a look at it. This is at citationneeded.news, which I don't know if that's a custom URL for something that looks like a Substack style newsletter. Maybe is, maybe isn't. Molly White's work here. No, Trump didn't make $50 billion from his meme coin. Journalists' flawed math and ignorance of crypto markets, and that's not hard to come by. I'm ignorant of crypto markets. Turns tokens into fake fortunes. Of course, that's the point of crypto markets. So it's clear that, yeah, he's made some money, but it's paper money. That's a good reminder all at once. But also maybe the math that you're using, and I'm sure Trump would be encouraging this math, overinflates things. That it's not as simple as, well, the current value of this stupid meme coin is X dollars per coin, and Trump purports to own X number of those coins. So simple multiplication brings you to $50 billion. True. But real world considerations and economics and actual market forces say different, and you're probably beginning to think that I guess that's true. That's exactly why, right? The current valuation of such a coin doesn't necessarily mean that it will stay there. Of course, it could go up, but it could also go down, and these things do tend to crash. But also, real dynamics in real world markets, that a single coin could be sold on the open market, whatever that means, for $50 for one coin doesn't mean that two coins can be sold for 50 or 200 or 2,000. And remember that Trump's fortune here is based on hoarding what he claims to be several million of these coins. Now, if you can find one buyer for $50 for a stupid meme coin with Trump involved, doesn't surprise me. That you could sell 100 worries me, dismays me, but doesn't necessarily surprise me. 1,000, well, you're starting to push my belief here. 1 million? No. That's where it becomes problematic, right? If there are 1 million of them for sale, then there's no reason to expect that they would go for 50, 100, whatever, dollars a piece, even if that's the current price for one of them. But you want to actually sell them? I don't know about that. You want to convert it into cash? I don't think that's going to work. So no, Trump didn't make $50 billion from his meme coin. Molly White explains it this way. When Donald Trump launched a meme coin days before his inauguration, newspapers were quick to try to grab headlines with huge numbers. They did it. And they grabbed me with it. The Trump meme coin, and again, remember also that the dollar sign goes in front here, and we were making fun of the fact that it's Smellania, but maybe we're just so used to seeing Trump and dollar signs that we didn't realize it's now Strump, which, brings to mind Strumpet, of course. But the Strump meme coin, a financial asset that didn't exist on Friday afternoon. We read this one from Axios. Now accounts for about 89% of Donald Trump's net worth, wrote Axios. That did seem a little outrageous, but yeah, I didn't figure it out at the time. Well, anyway, they're now dubbing him a crypto billionaire because of it. Let's see. The so-called fully diluted value of all the tokens as of Saturday at noon was $30 billion, a number achieved less than a day after the token went on the market, wrote the New York Times. We saw that. Newspapers' estimates of fully diluted value fluctuated wildly from somewhere between around $20 billion to around $70 billion, depending on which paper you read and when they published. Right? This stuff does fluctuate minute by minute. That the numbers fluctuated by about $50 billion within the span of only hours or days perhaps should have been a sign to these reporters that the numbers aren't real. That's true. Fully diluted valuation, though, is an estimate so flawed that even publishing it should be considered journalistic malpractice. It is calculated by taking the current going price for a crypto token on an exchange and multiplying it by the total number of tokens that may ever exist for that cryptocurrency. Oh, may ever exist. Does that mean that they maybe not? Well, that might be problematic. To use Trump as an example, or the Trump coin, Strump, I guess, to differentiate it from the person. To use Strump as an example, people are currently trading these coins when this was published. And I guess we got to know the exact date and time. But this was published yesterday. The time isn't here. At least maybe not. Maybe it's at the bottom. But anyway, you get the idea. To use this Strump thing as an example, people at the time she wrote were currently trading these coins for around $53 a piece. There are 200 million of them in circulation, allegedly. I mean, they're not real, but they say there are 200 million of them in circulation, which puts the token's already highly questionable, as I explain in a moment, market cap at around $10.7 billion. That's something too, right? Well, he made $50 billion, but all the coins in existence are only worth $10.7 billion, and they're not even maybe worth that. So how do you get to $50 billion? Well, eventually, over a period of 3 years, assuming Trump does not lose interest or change the parameters of the deal, eventually 1 billion tokens are set to be released. It is this supply, 3 years from now, that is being multiplied by the current price of the tokens to achieve these estimates in the several tens of billions of dollars for how much Trump's net worth has increased, as though it can be safely assumed that not only will the price remain stable over the next 3 years, and it's definitely not going to do that, but that there is another more than $40 billion that is somehow guaranteed to just materialize. Now, this is not to downplay the extent to which Trump is grifting his devotees and those crypto traders looking to make a buck on meme coin speculation, but it is important that we accurately report on his cons and do not contribute to misleading crypto hype for the sake of large numbers. In reality, when people naturally look to dollars to try to make sense of the real world value of crypto tokens, if there is one, that appear overnight, cryptocurrency is incredibly hard to accurately value. Terms like market capitalization, which have well-known meanings when used in traditional financial markets, are something else entirely in crypto. People regularly try to extrapolate the sale price of a tiny number of tokens, one, for instance, to their often massive supplies, assuming that if you can sell one token for $1, how hard could it be to find eager buyers at that price for another trillion or so tokens? That's a good point. In July of 2022, as the previous crypto bubble was popping, and before I began writing this newsletter, I wrote a blog post titled Cryptocurrency, quote, Market Caps and Notional Value, where I attempted to explain these flawed estimates. Here's a lightly edited and updated version of that post. If you want to read in depth about it, it is offered here, but I'll just give you a flavor of it because I think it's more detail than we actually need. The detail we needed was, oh yeah, just because you can sell one of these tokens to an idiot doesn't mean you can sell 10. And even if you can sell 10, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, can you sell 1 billion? Can you sell 1 trillion? No, you never could. There's no way. You could sell 1 million of them to a billionaire idiot. That's possibly true. But how many of those can you find? Can you really sell this whole stash out? I doubt it. But anyway, as she put in this now revised article explaining the whole detail of it, when headlines speak of crypto billionaires or trillions of dollars of crypto market cap, where do these numbers come from? Is each cryptocurrency project sitting on a bank account with actual dollar bills to match their supposed market cap? Of course not. Even the crypto tokens that do claim to be doing this aren't doing this. And who is that? I don't know. Tether and Circles. USDC are the top two US dollar pegged stable coins, and both have at various times claimed to always have $1 in cash in a bank account for each token. But by now it's been shown that this was never true for either token. Okay. And of course, if it was, why isn't it just dollars? Why trade meme coins or tokens when each one is tethered to $1? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it's clear that there isn't a real dollar in the crypto ecosystem for each reported dollar of market cap. But beyond that, it doesn't even seem to be close. Then you're reminded here in this next section, like it or not, crypto is valued in dollars. When somebody tells you that a pile of crypto tokens are worth X dollars, what does that mean? The urge to represent crypto prices in dollars makes sense. Most average people probably couldn't tell you if a Bitcoin was worth on the order of dollars, or what a Bitcoin, if a Bitcoin was worth on the order of dollars, or tens of thousands of dollars, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And far fewer people would be familiar with the prices of minor altcoins. Quick, what's a baby Dogecoin trading at? No one knows. Even people who know that Ether has been trading somewhere around $3,400 lately, plus or minus a few hundred, depending on the day, will usually prefer to do the mental math when someone refers to a quantity of Ether coin, because even crypto people tend to think of the world around them in terms of traditional currency that they use for day-to-day transactions. There are crypto proponents out there who will say things like, well, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, and that the dollar price doesn't matter, but that's marketing. Note how that only becomes a common refrain when Bitcoin isn't doing well against the dollar. There are crypto critics out there who will say we shouldn't use dollar values at all for the reasons I'm about to outline, but I'll let you read on your own. But frankly, that's unrealistic. I don't entirely disagree with the premise. After all, the whole reason I'm writing this article is because people are being misled by the practice. But the fact of the matter is that when a crypto project is hacked, and I need to decide if it's a sufficiently significant event to include in Web3 is going just great, another of her titles, I, too, look up the price of whichever token was stolen and go to multiplying. But, okay, good reminder here, without going too in-depth, that, yeah, the math is way fuzzy, and you certainly shouldn't be multiplying the current price of one coin times the number of coins that Donald Trump claims to own, or that he claims are in existence now, or much less claim will be in existence in 3 years. The value of what he's holding is how many dollars can he get for it realistically if he went to sell them right now? And the answer is, if he dumped 1 trillion of these coins on the market, is he'd get fractions of a cent for each one, and not $50 billion. Okay, so that's worth putting on the record and correcting. All right, which other ones have we, have any of these blue sky posts that we haven't gotten to? Okay, yes, here's one. Back to the executive orders here, and this brings us back to Steve Vladek. But first, I'm reading the comments of Andy Craig, a poster on election law and policy, etc., who picks up on Steve Vladek's commentary on one of these purported executive orders. This one entitled, Guaranteeing the State's Protection Against Invasion. What's happening in this one? Do you want to actually hear some of the verbiage from this? Gives you an idea of what's going on here. A proclamation, not an executive order, but a proclamation by the president, now Donald Trump, by the authority, or as he says, by the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby proclaim. An essential feature of any sovereign nation is the existence of territorial boundaries. You know what that means, the border. So this is sealing the border against invasion. But what he's doing here, without reading the whole stupid thing, Steve Vladek puts it this way: by the power vested in me in the Constitution, by the laws of the United States, I have determined that the current situation at the southern border qualifies as an invasion. under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States. You know that they've been saying this for years. It's the reason we need to react this way is this is an invasion, an actual invasion. And of course, everybody says, I understand you to mean it in hyperbolic fashion. But one, the facts as alleged are false here. And two, even if they were true, it wouldn't constitute an invasion. You just want it to constitute an invasion so that you can do certain things. And basically, that's what this whole thing is. Trump has often said, well, if it was an invasion, I'd have emergency powers under the Constitution. So all we really need to do is declare it to be an invasion. Again, this is one of those areas where we've said we can leave it safely. I know it seems like not much protection to simply say it's an invasion if the president says it's an invasion. But that's okay because presidents are responsible people and nobody just gets to waltz into the office from off the street and do dumb stuff because they'd have to be vetted by the entire populace and elected president. And we would never elect such an irresponsible person. Well, now we have, and that's the big fear. And as Steve Vladeck points out, yeah, he can now supposedly, maybe, kind of, we don't know. We've never tested it. We'll find out what courts say. Can a president simply say, based on, hey, I want this to be the case, that it's a invasion, and therefore do what? Well, here's the issue, right? Steve Vladeck says, lays it out there. By the power vested in me by the Constitution, I've determined the current situation is an invasion under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States. Steve Vladeck knows the Constitution and the text and what it means legally and just says, well, there you have it. But in case you missed it, Andy Craig says, this, by the way, is actual martial law. That's the claimed authority that he's invoking under that part of the Constitution. We're being invaded by a foreign army, he says, and it's time to use military force in a war zone. Get out of the way, civil laws and courts, civi, as he says, civil laws and courts. That's what happens when the country's really invaded. And that's what he's trying to invoke here. Will it work? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see and try and figure out what we think the courts will actually say about such a thing. To help you out a little bit, Article 4, Section 4 is now right here in front of me. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. Now, my original thought on how they would misinterpret this intentionally is that they would say it's unconstitutional to elect a Democratic governor in any state because it says right here the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. Just as I think, you could have fooled him into believing that he was protected from indictment so long as he remained in a chair. So long as he never stood up, he would be a sitting president. He's quite dumb. But that's the beginning of Section 4. So, okay, a Republican form of government. Now, normal people realize that this means that people get to vote. There's an elected representation inside of every state. That's what they mean by Republican form of government, not that they come from the Republican Party. But it goes on to say, and the United States government, therefore, shall protect each of them against invasion. And on application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. But, as with the case with lots of other parts of the Constitution, they'll ignore that part. It just says the part that they're interested in, the federal government shall protect each state against invasion. Therefore, if you declare it to be an invasion, you can use the United States government's power to protect each of the states. And does that mean you can dispatch the army to them? I don't know. We're going to find out at some point. But that's the upshot of this thing. Does Steve Vladeck have more to say about it? Not directly here, but I think, well, we'll see. I'll check what's in pocket. But now I think maybe I had accompanied this with Steve Vladeck's latest Substack entry nearby. We'll see whether We'll see whether I really did that or not. I think this is the one here. No, this is a different one, actually. Also from Steve Vladeck. But anyway, this one I think we're still digesting, that allegedly Trump's executive order declares us to be under invasion. We're in a state of war now. With who? I don't know. Does it work that way? I don't know. Will we ever find out? I don't know. But in the meantime, you're on notice. And Andy Craig makes a good point here. If you're saying, well, I'm afraid that one day he will simply declare martial law like the guy did like President Yoon in South Korea, and the South Koreans didn't stand for it. But apparently we've done that. And so far, not only has it not changed the price of eggs, but everybody is still in line for flavored coffees and walking around as though we're not at war, which, Trump is probably happy with, although on occasion he will insist that he needs everybody to think that they're at war in order for him to do his stupid things. Let's outline some of those stupid things when we come back.
Sup fam, it's your boy Darwin, aka Darwin_Darko, aka the most reasonable man in America, aka KITM's senior black correspondent. You might remember me from such recordings as Spacemen vs. Space Cadets and We Need to Talk About Joe Biden. Today, I want to bring you good news about that thing you've been struggling with. Do you suffer from giving too much of a damn? Do you turn on the series of tubes and find yourself outraged at the particular way some news organization strung some sentences together only to realize, nope, this is not some fictional hellscape? Well, guess what? You no longer have to accept the life of giving too much of a damn. You can do something about it, because even you, yes you, can be a show contributor. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, Mr. Most Reasonable Man in America, I'm not some professional podcast talking guy. Don't worry about it. Do you have a smartphone or some other electronic recording device? Well, that's all you need. You too can have a segment where you can read us an important article and give us your take. Read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Fair warning though, side effects may include general punditry, having opinions and hot takes, getting stuff off your chest, and hearing your own voice. If your recording lasts longer than 5 to 7 minutes, please consult kagrox@gmail.com. That's KAGROX@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. All right, I am I'm of two minds here. One, we could spend our time diving into the latest from Steve Vladeck, or we could try doing that later on in the week and getting to some other of the weird mentions that are out there. In fact, maybe before we dive into Steve Vladeck, I want to go back just for a second, back to the cryptocurrency issue. I knew I had something else that I wanted to add to that, and it also came from Molly White, who was the author of the piece that we read part of in explaining that, okay, maybe the valuation that was in the headlines was wrong. I don't want to say alarmist. I mean, it's not good. I mean, it's definitely an indication of Trump's ability to and intention to grift through the meme coins. That's not changed. But the dollar amount, to hang $50 billion on it and say, look, he already made $50 billion is not true. And I think I understand that. I would, to the extent that we asserted that, I would rescind that. Sounds like there's a bird fight going on at the bird feeder, by the way, right outside of our headquarters windows. Sounds like the starlings beating each other up over the feeders here. Anyway, Molly White also rounded up Twitter response to the meme coin. I mentioned to you that there was this generalized dismay among crypto bros about the way in which this meme coin was launched. I don't quite understand it, but I thought it was interesting to see Molly White round up this collection of tweets and saying, I'm not sure people quite grasp how much of the crypto world is reacting to, or I guess I'm not sure people quite grasp how much of the crypto world is reacting to the Trump meme coin launches. I know it's a little bit ambiguous. And let's see, the first collection of 4 such tweets, one, it doesn't really matter who says it. You're not going to know any of these people. But WASI lawyer, I don't know, should I even bother telling you? Anyway, the comment is, Trump dropping his own meme coin means he has the wrong people in his ear regarding crypto policy. I'm now getting very concerned about the Trump presidency. I know a lot of leopards are eating faces here. Nick Carter saying something that hasn't been much discussed. Creating a bunch of personal meme coins opens the door to secretive foreign buyers trying to curry influence with our leaders. Oh no. That probably deserves some dramatic music. Yes, that is happening. If you hated Hunter Biden's anonymous art sales, you should hate this too. But, if you're a hypocrite, don't worry about it, I guess. Basically, we used to have an informal rule that presidents wouldn't start or run businesses that could pose a conflict of interest. Creating a bunch of meme coins and DeFi, I don't even know what that is. Is it digital something? Electronic, I don't know, finance, who knows, DeFi protocols, maybe you know. Anyway, doing this opens the possibility to rampant violations of the emoluments clause. Oh no, I can't believe it. Not to mention the obvious COI, conflict of interest, given the fact that Trump can set crypto policy. Yes, Nick Carter, welcome to America. Ryan Selkis saying, Dear real Donald Trump, please fire whoever recommended going forward with the Melania launch today. 1, they don't know what they're doing. 2, they will cost you a lot of money and goodwill. 3, they don't have your interests in mind. I can't believe it. Brent, somebody, says, feel bad for anyone trying to build anything serious right now, RN. President just making a complete mockery of this industry, fighting another Biden administration, probably, as he says, would have been better long term. Oh, that gets you a sad trombone if I can find it. There we go. There's more, though. Molly White also collected a couple others. There's an awful lot here. One illustrated with a picture of Ben Affleck sighing and closing his eyes in disbelief over something. I guess this from Lai Yuen says, I guess this is what this photo is supposed to be, an illustration of this little vignette. Be young. Think crypto is a force for good. F and F mock you. I don't know what F and F, but mock you for years as the crypto guy, friends and family, I guess. Okay. Trump about to become president. See, it was legit. I didn't waste my life, okay? And then Trump launches the Strump coin and the Smelania coin, proving it is indeed a clown industry and you are a top comedian. Yeah, for people who have bet everything or told friends and family all the time, no, this is a serious endeavor. Oh, it's not? Ghafoor Khan commenting, Trump onboarded normies to crypto today, sure. But for what? A meme coin pump? Some made life-changing money. They'll chase 100x gains forever, never learning what blockchains are all about. Oh, that's so important. Others? Well, they'll buy at the top with their hard-earned savings and exit in disgust, never looking at crypto ever again. This isn't onboarding. This isn't education. This isn't how we build a better future. It never was, though. As someone building in this space, it's heartbreaking. TBH, to be honest. We can do better. We have to do better. Womp womp. JJ Cycles. I joined crypto because I genuinely saw a potential major impact on the financial system. Here we are, President of the United States of America launching his own meme coin. Genuinely questioning whether I want to be involved in any of this much longer. Boo-hoo. On and on. More and more of this stuff. Is there even more? Probably, but I think she stops there. Interesting to see this much discouragement. I wish I understood the whole thing better in terms of the platform that he used to launch this thing, but I guess most people who, to the extent that there are anybody who's really serious about things, I mean, you're probably fooling yourselves, as evidenced by your dismay right now. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to note that even the crypto bros were expressing disbelief here. I mean, they'll turn right back around at some point, my guess. But I guess it's fun to watch them get upset about this now. All right. Steve Vladeck or the other direction? I'll say the other. Well, gosh. I'll say for the moment the other direction. Remember yesterday I began reading you the America 2.0 news issue about Dave Troy writing about meet the bros behind Trump's Greenland bluster. I think we got through only part of it, but it was a very short article, and it doesn't really explain much more. I appreciate it in the sense that they said, these are the people, meet the people behind it. Okay, very often a title like that means, well, I'll tell you who they are, and then I'll retell the story of where they came from and why what they're doing is so weird, which... fine, it's all under one roof. That's nice. But here they are fully making use of the internet, saying, well, here are the names and the places they come from. And actually, that doesn't tell you a great deal. But here are a bunch of links that will tell you that stuff. You can read it selectively. So anyway, meet the bros behind Greenland bluster. Remember, Trump's renewed bluster over Greenland may have been just noise, but its roots lie in the network state movement and deserve further exploration. Maybe we better start doing some of that stuff. All right. Donald Trump's renewed interest in Greenland has its roots and the roots have gone widely unreported. Dryden Brown, just to give you that name again, 28-year-old entrepreneur who has previously attracted the attention of venture capitalist Peter Thiel, I guess, has a dream, and it's called Praxis. And I don't know whether that has anything to do with the whole X is Praxis stuff that we've been seeing all over the internet. XYZ, I should say. Whatever. Insert your issue here is Praxis. No, I don't think so. It's just coincidental, but maybe not. The plan, what is it? Bring together all of the right people in new cities. Okay, sure. We're just going to... New cities founded around the principles of free market capitalism, like nationalizing TikTok, I guess, and the network state concept. That's the issue we really have to start looking at. And then do away with dumb regulations and pursue the ideas that make sense. To who? To misanthropic young men. On November 12th, 2024, Brown posted that he had traveled to Greenland. Remember that, with the intention of buying it. I'll buy it. Really? Nobody's going to buy it. It's dumb outright, but I guess the least dumb thing about it is a sovereign nation says to another sovereign nation, let's make a deal to trade control of this territory. Those are things that do happen. I don't know if they're always buying them, but, Louisiana Purchase, we did do that. Has anybody ever just purchased it privately? No, but these guys think they can do anything. Plus, they think they have billions of dollars because of the, bad calculations and inflated numbers that we were just talking about with Trump's meme coin. They believe are real in some cases. I went to Greenland to try to buy it. Here's what happened, he wrote. Another one of these dumb, it's like a YouTube video. Here's what happens when you pour, corn syrup over your head for a week. I don't know, nothing, but you might want to check out. It makes it sound like something happened. So I'll click. Anyway, Brown went on to explain the idea behind Praxis and said that he had become interested in buying Greenland after Trump had first proposed it in 2019. It's been reported that Trump got the idea from Ron Lauder, who's also from Russia. Brown concluded after a meeting with authorities that Greenland does not want to be bought, but reasoned that they could be bought off with new tax revenue that would come from his new city. Previously, Brown suggested that his projects would attract crypto dudes. Maybe attacking them would be good. And hot girls, and they'll almost certainly be attacked. This seems to form a key part of his vision, whatever it might be, whether they would be enticed. They could be enticed to terraform the permafrost and ice of Greenland remains to be seen. So I thought I would read some of these links maybe. What is Praxis and what is the idea behind it? But there's a little bit more to read here. On December 22nd, Donald Trump announced his renewed interest in acquiring Greenland from Denmark and began making veiled threats that suggested that if he did not acquiesce, the country would potentially face crippling tariffs. Many analysts assumed that Trump was spouting off again to shape the geopolitical sphere before assuming office, a fair bet. But the same day, he announced his intention to appoint Ken Howry as ambassador to Denmark, right? Close personal friend of Elon Musk, ally of Dryden Brown and Praxis, but maybe not such, didn't raise alarm bells as ambassador all by himself because he's been ambassador to Sweden, as we pointed out yesterday, so it wasn't as crazy as it sounded on the surface. For a glimpse into Brown's mindset, have a look at this manic tweet thread, and I thought maybe we should see that as well, that he posted back in October of 2024, which reads, "A year ago, I was canceled by the New York Times for trying to build a society of portly merchants. Like already, wait a minute, what? To build a society of portly merchants, muscular warriors, and very thin priests. Yeah. Yesterday, we announced $525 million facility to make it a reality. The press is dead. Long live Praxis. Here's how we did it. Read it for yourself. It's absolutely strange. I'd like to see the rest of the thread, because right now this sounds like a dungeon master describing, his portly merchants and muscular warriors. Is this the Lord of the Rings, or is this a real thing? It's never going to be a real thing. But, in addition to this being his financial fantasy, he only has Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons to go on in terms of forming a fantasy. I don't know. Mother Jones reported in 2023 that Brown was also a fan of esoteric anti-Western theorists Oswald Spengler, I guess author of Decline of the West, René Girard, a favorite of Thiel's, Alexander Dugin, noted neo-fascist Russian geopolitical influencer, and various other reactionary writers such as Julius Evola and Curtis Yarvin. Reporter Gil Duran also has reported about Praxis previously. Add a link here. Many are annoyed about giving Trump's neo-imperialist lust any airtime, calling it silly and unrealistic. But even if, as that may be the case, it would be a mistake to discount these developments as purely noise. They reflect an emergent and increasingly influential strain within U.S. politics, which is increasingly networked with neo-reactionary movements worldwide. Their goal is to mine sovereignty, whatever that even means, like any other extractive resource, and over time promote capital flight from existing nations into greenfield, tax-advantaged jurisdictions. Even that goal may be unrealistic. It may still cause immense economic damage, and we should be clear-headed, though, about the risks posed by this activity. So now it makes you say, what the F and F, right? Well, here's that weird tweet thread from Dryden Brown. And what's the date on it? October 16th. Again, I was canceled, oh no, by the New York Times for trying to build a society of portly merchants, muscular warriors, and very thin priests. Okay, that's probably not why you were canceled, and you were not canceled. And I would suggest canceling you based on what are you even talking about? If you're going to try to reshape the world geopolitically, just make sense. Just talk normal at the outset and let people evaluate what you're talking about. I don't care if the merchants are portly and whether there are hobbits living in underground burrows in your fantasy. Tell me what you're trying to do. He goes on. This is the rest of the thread. As a 23-year-old, I left my job at a hedge fund. Good. To build a new society, new land, new laws, new people. No. I wanted to build a heroic society reminiscent of Rome, Athens, and Sparta. Me too, man. That's what I wanted to do when I was 23. I want to build a heroic world. Play Dungeons and Dragons, dude, and then just go to work. Please. But anyway, ready for this? I wanted to build a heroic society reminiscent of Rome, Athens, and Sparta, but with spacefaring ambitions. This would be humanity's next great leap. We were building the first network state. You were getting wedgies and pushed into lockers. This is the only... I hate looking back and saying, football players, go beat this guy up already. Jeez, what are we waiting for? It's not a great experience having that happen. Nobody should be beat up for their stupid ideas, but you should be aware that these are stupid ideas that, take them off Twitter and put them in the real world, and you're probably going to get beat up. Shut up, nerd. Come on. I wanted to build a heroic society. Me too. I flew to Africa to learn about the new cities being built there. Now, mind you, a 23-year-old, generally speaking, not frequently flying to Africa. If they are, they're staying, do a youth hostel tour of Africa. Sure. Flying to Africa to find out about taking over chunks of it so you can build Dungeons and Dragons worlds out of cryptocurrency. Well, that's because you had the hedge fund job. They paid you too much. Anyway, I flew to Africa to learn about new cities being built there. When I arrived, I knew no one, but before I left, I found myself meeting with the VP of Ghana about building the Dubai of Africa. which, Dubai, I don't know. I guess the Arabian Peninsula is it? I never have figured out. Is it Asia? It's not Africa. I don't know. What continent is the Arabian Peninsula on, by the way? I'm going to check it out. I'm going to Google it right now. I'm really not sure. I've checked this before. Asia. Okay. So, at the very least, you can say, all right, well, it's not Africa. So they're going to have a Dubai of Africa. And people are building new cities. But by the way, most of the people building new cities, if they're building them in Africa, it's probably China. And, you're going to learn that from them. We launched the Praxis community, and we should be reading about that, to recruit people to join us, and it began to grow quickly. By 2022, we were riding high, closing investments from Paradigm, Bedrock, and whatever Sama is. I don't know. Sam Altman. Okay, I see. We got a Soho apartment and made it our HQ because that's the way to, do things on a budget. Filled it with knights' armor and raw milk. I mean, do you not see that this guy is a flippin' idiot? And hosted Praxis meetups for esoteric bodybuilders, internet schizos, and normies seeking respite from the cultural insanity pervading the rest of their lives. Oh, I see. We're the ones that are saying, don't pay attention to that insanity. Come to our Soho apartment filled with knights' armor and raw milk. And I guess maybe they're having esoteric bodybuilders there to help make sure that Dryden Brown doesn't get beat up and stuffed in a locker. I was flying around the world looking for land and to meet with governments. We visited Turkey, Cyprus, Italy, Montenegro, Albania, Morocco, Greece, and more. I realized that while we could acquire land with our cash on hand, the government deal required more. We didn't need $1 billion to start building, but governments wanted visibility on our ability to, that's fine, to finance the city before expending material political capital to partner with us. Oh, these people are just idiots. But if they had $1 trillion, I'd talk to them. Meanwhile, the venture market began imploding, because it's stupid, and every company started doing layoffs. Like every venture capitalist, I pivoted to the Middle East. I figured out how to communicate our vision to massive pools of capital and found myself in some interesting rooms where they'll dismember you. At a dinner, Ray Dalio mistook me for someone he knew and came over to catch up. He and others listened to my Praxis pitch, and I left the dinner with introductions to world leaders and potential paths to sovereign financing. Certainly could be true. There's a bunch of weird sovereign fund dudes out there. We made great early progress, partnering with the largest new city project in the world, finding viable sites, creating joint working groups with governments, partnering with former heads of state, senior real estate developers, and Pritzker Prize-winning architects. They really should be. Again, you should be tossing this guy out on his ass. But instead, he's jet-setting around pretending to do this. However, I suspected that we would still be blocked from a great government partnership without financing as we struggled to close a deal for an SEZ. In 2023, Praxis started getting bad press. You're stupid. The details were strangely personal. How could they know what books I read? Are you kidding? I don't. But you think I can't guess that Lord of the Rings is... Oh, come on. How could they know that I called someone... Oh, they used the R word. That I used it in the office last month. Because somebody probably said so. Because they were mad at you. Where did they get incorrect numbers about our events budget? How hard is it to figure out how much it costs to buy an apartment with Soho and fill it with knights' armor? I mean, it's dumb, but I think you could probably hang a number on it, and you'd probably miss. Big deal. It turned out the journalists were collaborating with people I considered friends. They were called sources. I was confident in my ability to bend the world based on my experiences. Remember, he's 23, right? Over the last few years. So I acted on intuition with intensity, but with the naivete of youth and made mistakes. Yep. That's sometimes happened. Together they set out to destroy us. As the months went on, the team became less confident in my ability to execute. Oh no, I can't believe it. Felt the social cost of bad press, and people began leaving the company because it wasn't real. This was extremely painful, but the remaining team made a heroic effort to secure land, a new kind of special economic zone, that's the SEZ, and financing from the government. In late 2023, we neared a deal. We prepared an initial agreement, agreed on the language, and signed, assuming the government would sign the next day. I woke up that morning, December 12th, 2023, with hundreds of texts. The New York Times had written a huge article denigrating Praxis, calling me uncharismatic and unaccomplished. You probably are. Detailing colleges I'd been rejected from, inaccurate, and connecting me to Nazism because they claimed to have a picture of someone measuring my skull? Question mark. I am comfortable with people thinking I'm insane, wrong, etc. Good. But it was crazy. On the other hand, the article had cool illustrations of knights representing Praxians, and its existence implied institutional interest in Praxis. The Twitter reception was powerful. Many founders I'd looked up to for years came to my defense, along with thousands of others. But back to the Praxis office. We were focused on getting our government agreement countersigned, and that signature never came. Boo-hoo. Much later, we learned the New York Times article had successfully spooked the government, as it should. And all our contracts there were instructed contacts. They were instructed to ghost us. We were shadow banned. A few continued to respond, so at the time I believed and told the team that they were on holidays and would get back to us soon. It was something. Oh, show more. It's a long one. It was what? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Eventually, we realized we were coping and the government was out. The pain set in. The team shrunk by 75%. We were lower on cash and had trouble getting meetings with some other of our investors. More former friends and even investors had hardened into staunch antagonists, spreading false gossip about the company and the stated purpose of destroying us at our lowest point. There are many details I cannot share, but some of the stories are shocking. Friends and family gently told me it was time to quit, that I had given it a shot and I would be a great founder of a normal company or something. I'll be a great founder. Everybody tells me I'll be great. It's Silicon Valley. You got second chances, etc. People started to think I was insane in a more negative way. Oh, I flew home to Santa Barbara exhausted. What went wrong? You were an idiot. How did I end up here? It was rough. I tried to sleep, but most nights I couldn't. I started getting brutal pain in my chest, shoulders, and back. I read Ben Horowitz's essay, The Struggle, often. Oh, the struggle, not your struggle, my struggle. How do you say that in German? Through the struggle, one thing was blindingly clear. There was zero effing chance I was quitting. Praxis is an indestructible idea, and its realization is inevitable. You got to get this guy on different meds. Nations are a commitment between men to share a political destiny. The destiny of the West is reaching even higher towards spiritual heights and physical mastery. Praxis is the embodiment of this destiny. We will achieve transcendence through heroism. Sounds more like heroin. Wisdom and virtue. We'll conquer the stars. We will fight for this cause. We will bear any cost. When you walk the righteous path, you must not be deterred. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You can kill the man. That's a thought. But not the idea. And I don't think they can kill the man either. I think they could do it. In Santa Barbara, I knew it was time to double down, get back to the fight and finish the job. The way you build back up from the abyss is by ritualistically staring at your North Star until it has the intensity of the sun and taking a small step forward each day. Your goal is to build inner momentum and sustain it until your project gets, '(s), its own momentum. Work out and eat better, but drink more coffee and sleep at the office. Solve the problems. The only way out is through. For us, you get the idea here? I mean, do I have to go on forever in this? I can't read anymore. It's just crazy. And apparently this is the stuff that's behind at least part of this idea about Greenland as network state. You want to hear a little bit about that? We'll leave Steve Vladeck for tomorrow. Decoding the network state. We're going to leave most of this for tomorrow, too, because it's actually time for us to start getting out of here. The network state movement may sound new, but it's just rehashing old ideas of libertarian exit. that ultimately aid our adversaries, if you prefer. Let me give you a flavor of it. As tech entrepreneurs have become increasingly influential with the American right, many have looked for explanations about their motivations and goals. Anyone who spends even a little time researching the topic will land on the nascent network state movement, which seeks to replace nation states with a free market alternative. This is Dave Troy explaining it all in America 2.0. Once again, the basic pitch, which seems to make sense on the surface. Do you think so? It's this. If I'm not being well served by my government, shouldn't I be able to take my business elsewhere and get a better deal? But this is not an original idea. Here's a breakdown of what the network state idea is, where it came from, and how it fits into the bigger geopolitical picture. All right, well, we don't have time to actually go into it. But basically, didn't colonists do that? Basically, well, I'm not being treated fairly by my government. I'm going to get on the Mayflower and go over to America and establish my own Massachusetts Bay colony where we can practice our Protestantism there, our particular Puritan brand of it, unmolested. And then why should we pay taxes to these guys? And maybe we're not being represented and eventually declare ourselves independent. All right. Yeah, sure. But are there fertile grounds to do that left in the world? And is that tolerated anymore? If yes, let's do it. If no, we'll go to Mars. Or maybe we just take, land that we think is still available for the taking, like Greenland, and push people out. How can we live in Greenland, though? Remember, these guys subsist on burrito taxis, right? There's not going to be any burrito taxi in Greenland anytime soon. But maybe we can do it anyway by, if we can have virtual currency, maybe I can be a virtual resident of Greenland as well. I declare myself free of American taxes. I live in Greenland, a libertarian paradise, even though I'm still eating burritos here in Santa Barbara. But technically speaking, my avatar is there, and you can see it if you put on the right kind of meta glasses. Come on. No, I don't think so. And you shouldn't either. And the fact that these weirdos are driving foreign policy now, oh my God. What if that were really true?
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
All right, well, we're probably getting a little far afield. There's plenty of horror stories right here in real, actual America, thanks to Trump assuming the presidency. Justice Putnam will get you grounded with his West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy coming up next. Starting out, of course, with Trump's disastrous memecoin implosion. Great. It's ruining the lives of the supporters who bought it. Boo-hoo. Stay tuned.